When you were 7, you could squat for hours in the dirt. Your ankles under you, your butt touching the ground, eating a piece of fruit, looking at a bug, building something out of sticks. You didn't stretch to get into that position. You didn't warm up. You didn't do mobility drills. You just lived there. That was your body. And today, I want to ask a question that nobody's really asking. Not where that body went. We know where. I want to ask what it means that almost every adult you know has lost something that every 7-year-old has for free. And what it says about the civilization that did this to us. And what it says about you that you might be the first generation in human history to accept this as normal. This is the Making Moves podcast, just me today. Let's squat into it. Let me list some things that you used to do without thinking. You hung from things, monkey bars, tree branches, the side of the couch, your dad's arm. You didn't think about your shoulder health. You didn't think about your grip. You just held on and dangled, and it felt really good. You climbed. You climbed walls, fences, trees, the sides of cupboards you weren't supposed to climb. You rolled down hills, on carpets, on beds for no reason at all. And you fell constantly. And you got up and you fell again. You ran barefoot on grass that was too hot, on sand that was too cold, on pavement that had glass in it, and your feet knew exactly what to do. You crawled. You jumped off things that were way too high for you. You balanced on walls. You sat cross-legged for an entire movie without your hips aching. You could touch your toes without knowing that that was a thing people struggled with. You didn't train. You didn't exercise. You didn't stretch. You just had it. And here's the first thing that I want you to sit with. None of that was exceptional. That wasn't a talented kid. That was a default human being. That was the baseline specification of the species that you belong to. For 200,000 years, that's what an adult looked like too. What you had at 7 wasn't childhood. It was humanity. So what happened? I don't think it's useful to frame this as something that was taken from you. Nothing was taken. You agreed to every part of it. You just didn't know what you were agreeing to because nobody told you that there was a trade happening. And the trade is this. Civilization, the whole apparatus of schools and offices and cars and phones and furniture and shoes, offers you an enormous bargain. It says, give us your body's autonomy and we will give you comfort, knowledge, wealth, leisure and safety. And this is a real bargain. It's not a scam. The things that civilization gives you in exchange are real things. Most of the progress of the last 3,000 years has been about freeing humans from the physical demands of life. That's what agriculture was. That's what the wheel was. That's what the chair was. That's what the elevator was. That's what the phone in your pocket is. The bargain works. You're alive because of it. Your kids are alive because of it. You've seen more of the world than your great-grandparents could have ever dreamt of. But here's the part that the bargain doesn't really tell you. Your body was the price. You paid with the squat. You paid with the hang. You paid with balance. You paid with foot sensitivity. You paid with that spinal rotation. You paid with the ability to sit on the floor. You paid with the ability to fall. And because the payments were small and daily and invisible, you never noticed the bill. You sat in school, you sat in the car, you sat at dinner, you sat at work, you sat on the couch, you sat on the plane. You sat and you sat and you sat, and every hour of sitting was a tiny withdrawal from an account that you didn't even know you had. Nobody robbed you. You spent it on things that were worth it mostly, on things that seemed free. But the account is real, and most people don't find out it's running dry until they're in their 40s, wincing to pick up their keys, asking why their body is betraying them. Their body isn't betraying them. It kept every single promise that it ever made. It did exactly what they asked it to do, which was nothing. And here's what people miss about losing mobility. It's not the mobility. It's that you stop noticing what you've lost, and then you stop being able to imagine it, and then you stop being a person who ever had it in the first place. You stop reaching for things on the floor because you can't bend like that. And it happens so gradually you don't even notice that you've stopped. You stop sitting on the floor with your kids because your hips scream after 10 minutes. You stop picking things up with one hand because your back doesn't trust you. Basically, you start managing. You sit on the aisle seat because you need to stretch. You pick things up in a weird bend at the knees way because something happened that one time. You have a mattress conversation with your partner. You decline the hike. You watch from the deck. You choose the restaurant with the booth. And none of this registers as loss. It registers as preference, as personality, as age. This is the deepest part of the trade and the part that I most want you to understand. You don't just lose the physical capacity, you lose the self that had it. So you gradually become a person for whom the squat is simply not part of life, not forgotten, not mourned, unthought of. The same way that you don't mourn not being able to click your fingers in a way that you've never clicked them. It's not in your self-concept. It's not a thing that you are. Your identity quietly contracts to fit the shape of what you can still do. And the contraction is so slow and so ordinary that you never think of it as a contraction at all. You think of it as being a grown-up. This is how most people alive today end up by 60, as smaller versions of themselves, not just physically, but in what they believe is available to them, what they believe they are, what they believe a human can be. And the cruelest part is they don't feel it as a loss. They feel it as maturity. I want to make a claim that I think is actually important, not just motivational. What we now call age, the stiffness, the pain, the inability to get off the floor, the fragility, the sense that your body is a problem to be managed, almost none of it is age. It's disuse, it's neglect. There's now decades of research showing this. You can measure what aging actually does to a human body in the absence of modern lifestyle. Indigenous populations who still squat and walk and carry things do not develop the age-related problems that we consider inevitable. Centenarians who move don't look like centenarians who don't. Your body is not on a schedule of decline. Your body is on a use it or lose it contract, and the contract is ruthless, but it's also fair. What you demand of your body, it keeps. What you don't demand of it, it releases. This matters philosophically, because if what we call aging is mostly just decades of disuse wearing its costume, then the story that every adult has been told about their own body is a lie. Not a malicious lie, but a cultural lie. A lie everyone tells everyone else because it's the only story anyone has. You were told that your body naturally breaks down. It doesn't. Not the way that you think. You were told that 50 is when things starts to go south. They don't. Not naturally. They go because 50 is when 30 years of chairs catches up with you. You were told this is just what happens. It isn't. It's what happens to people like you in a civilization like ours who made the trade and didn't know they were making it. This is a big thing to take in. I want to say it plainly. Most of what you've been told that your body is, and most of what you've been told your body's future looks like, is wrong. Not metaphorically wrong, empirically wrong. The body you had at 7 was not a temporary loan that got recalled. It was the specification. Here is a fact from inside the work. I want to tell you this not as inspiration, but as information. When someone in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even older, starts patiently reclaiming the ranges of motion they used to have, their body moves towards them faster than it has any right to. The squat comes back, the hang comes back, the reach comes back, the floor sitting comes back. Not instantly, not perfectly, but faster than almost any physiological recovery process that you'd expect. Something in the body wants to go back. And I've thought about why for a long time. I don't think it's mystical. I think it's actually the simplest possible explanation. The neural patterns are still there. The connective tissue remembers. The joints were built for this. You are not a broken machine trying to acquire a new function. You are a well-designed machine that has been left on the shelf to rot. So flick the switch and it starts working again. Not like new, but like yours. Philosophically, I think this is one of the most important things you can understand about yourself. You are not building a new body when you train. You are uncovering an original one. This changes what the work means. You're not in a construction project. You are in an archaeology project. The thing that you're trying to reach is already there, buried under inactivity and fear and forgotten patterns and cultural permission to not bother. Every session is not adding to a new self. It's removing a layer of dust from an old one. And when something comes back, when you can squat again, when you can hang again, when you can reach again, the feeling is unmistakable to anyone who's had it. It's not achievement. It's not pride. It's not recognition. You meet yourself. And some part of you very quietly thinks, where the hell have you been? Here's where I want to push on something. A lot of people, when they hear this, they get philosophical in the wrong direction. They nod, they find it interesting, they think, yes, the body, ancient wisdom, reclaim the primal self, etc. And then they do nothing. And I understand why. Because taking this seriously means admitting some things that are really hard to admit. It means admitting that the way that you've been living has cost you something real, not abstractly, specifically. Range that you used to have, strength that you used to have, ease that you used to have, physical human capability that you used to have. It means admitting that you've been telling yourself a story. This is just age. I'm just busy. This is what being 40 is. That isn't true. It means admitting that nobody's coming to fix this. There is no treatment, there is no pill, there is no surgery. There is only use, reclaiming what you stopped using by using it. It means admitting that you have to do something every day for the rest of your life that isn't fast and isn't glamorous and isn't going to make a before and after real. And most people, when faced with that, would rather keep the story. They'd rather say, I'm just getting older, than confront what it would mean to do something about it. Because I'm just getting older is final. It closes the question. It lets you off the hook. It gives you permission to stop trying and stop caring. The truth that your body is almost entirely responsive to what you ask of it is much more demanding, because it means the state of your body is, to a degree almost nobody wants to face, your responsibility, not your fault. Responsibility and fault are different things. You didn't cause the civilization you were born into. You didn't invent the chair. You weren't given a choice when they sat you in a classroom for 12 years. None of that was your fault. But it is your responsibility now, because nobody else is going to live in this body for you. That's the philosophical weight most people can't quite lift. If the story is true, if the body responds, if it remembers, if it wants to return, then the way that you are right now is, from today forward, something you're actively choosing. Every day you don't move is a choice. Every day you do move is a choice. There is no neutral. There is no in between. I want to describe the alternative because I think it's useful to see it. Imagine a person who has taken all this in. They don't become a fitness fanatic. They don't quit their job to do handstands. They don't post about it on Instagram. They just reorganize themselves around a small, stubborn commitment that the body they move through the world in is going to be, to the extent they can influence it, a body that works. So they get on the floor every day for a few minutes for no reason other than bodies were built to be on the floor. They hang from something, not in a programmatic way. They just find a bar or a bench or a door frame or a tree and they hang, because spines were built to be put on. They squat fully, not as an exercise, but as a position they can rest in. They walk, they carry things, they reach, they climb stairs, they sit on the ground at parties. They take their shoes off. They pick things up with one hand because they can. They don't make it a big deal. They don't need an audience. They don't need a program. They don't need a coach. But their body, year by year, does not decline the way their peers' bodies decline. At 40, they move like other people move at 30. At 60, like other people at 45. At 80, and this is the part that almost unbelievable until you see it, they move like most people move at 65, except without the dependence, without the rails, without the constant negotiation with their own joints. And all of that from nothing more dramatic than a daily refusal to participate in their own disuse. That is, I think, a kind of quiet heroism that our culture doesn't have a name for yet. It's not athleticism, it's not wellness, it's not optimization. It's something like remaining yourself, remaining all the way to the end, the person you were built to be. So I want to leave you with a question that I think is a real one. Not, what should I do? What have you already agreed to lose without ever being asked? Sit with that. Because somewhere in the last 15 or 20 years, in 1,000 small moments you don't remember, you made 1,000 small agreements about what your body was allowed to do, what you would ask of it, what you would expect from it. You didn't think of them as agreements. They felt like reasonable adjustments, reasonable accommodations, reasonable givings up. But they compounded, and they are still compounding, and they're compounding right now in this exact moment as you listen to this. Another small agreement is being quietly renewed. that your body is what it is, that this is just age, that there is nothing to be done. That agreement is available for cancellation. Not because it's easy, it isn't easy, but because, and this is the whole thing, you're the only party to it. You can walk away whenever you want. I think the strange truth about modern adult life is how much of it is spent slowly becoming a smaller version of yourself and calling that growing up. I don't know if everyone needs to train. I don't know if everyone needs to squat and hang and crawl. I'm not religious about it. But I do think that every person alive owes it to themselves, at least once, to ask honestly what they've traded, for what, and whether that trade is still worth it. And I think if they're honest, most people will find that somewhere between 25 and 40, they quietly signed away more than they meant to, and that the bill is coming due, and that they have more leverage than they think to get some of that back. The body you had at 7 was not a childhood phase. It was you, undiluted, before the trade. It's still in there, not as metaphor, as physiology, waiting. And the only question is whether one of these days you decide to go looking. So that's it from me. Keep moving, keep squatting. See you next week.